Am I not a Philistine? And are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down here. If he's able to fight and kill me, we'll be your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you'll become subjects and serve us." That's the challenge. One-on-one. Then the Philistine said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and they were terrified. It's a pretty big challenge to overcome. Now, David was the son of Jesse and was from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse had 8 sons, right? David was the youngest of 7. 7 passed before, and we got David. Jesse had 8 sons, and in Saul's time, he was very old. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had followed Saul to war. The firstborn was Eliab, the second, I don't know, and the third, Larry will tell you how to say the names next week. David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep. Back with the sheep again. Back with the sheep. Appointed as the king, serving Saul, as we previously read, and now back with the sheep. I don't know, I guess because there was no one else to do it. But wouldn't you kind of feel like if you were David, "Hey, Dad, don't you know? I'm going to be the next king. Could you find someone else to take care of these sheep?" Like, wouldn't you maybe feel like that? Like, what am I doing? Don't you guys know I'm supposed to be doing, this is what I'm supposed to be working towards? How come everyone's forgotten? How come no one's helping me get there? Like, don't you guys know? Have you ever felt like that, maybe? I think this is often overlooked, so I want to highlight this again. David is the least, the forgotten, the overlooked, the uninvited, the assumed not right choice. Then he's anointed as the king to come, and David found favor with Saul. Now there was an army with the Philistines, and David was back taking care of the sheep. Do you think he wondered, where's the promise of God in my life? If he's anything like us, probably. Because if God's given you a promise and you kind of see it moving in that direction, and then all of a sudden it's moving in the complete other direction, and then sometimes a little bit more of a flow towards it, and you're not seeming to get any closer to it, you must be wondering, how? I'm sure God said that. But it's just not coming about. I think if we just kind of read this biblical passage, we can think that David just kind of took it all in stride and this was his life. But again, if he's anything like us, maybe, probably not. Verse 16, for 40 days the Philistine came forward, and every morning and every evening took his stand. Now Jesse said to his son David, "You're to be the next king. Go out there and fight him." No, it didn't say that, sorry. David must have been wondering, how come nobody's saying that? But he didn't say that. He said, "Take this ephah of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread to your brothers and hurry to their camp. Take along these 10 cheeses to the commander of their unit. See how your brothers are and bring back some assurance for them." Jesse's saying to David, go and be a servant. Go and serve. Go and serve your brothers. David's anointed to be, and I'll just kind of keep repeating this, anointed to be the next king, and go serve your brothers. They're out there in the war, in the battlefield, go serve them. Go bring them some food. What's that? Cheese sandwiches. Go bring them some cheese sandwiches. They're with Saul and all the men of Israel in the valley, fighting amongst the Philistines. Early in the morning, David left the flock in the care of a shepherd. So there was someone else. In the morning, David left the flock in the care of a shepherd. Someone else could have been watching the sheep. Loaded up and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines facing each other. David left his things with the keeper of the supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from the lines and shouted his usual defiance, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw the man, they fled from him in great fear. Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see how this man keeps coming out? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. He'll also give him his daughter in marriage, and he will exempt his family from paying taxes in Israel." Hey, that sounds like a good deal. That might be enough to motivate a few here in this room or in this day and age. Well, if you're married already, don't take the daughter, but the not paying tax part might be good. Pay no more taxes in Israel. David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?" They reported to him what they had been saying and told him, "This is what will be done for the one that kills him." When David's older brother heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here?" His brother would have known that he was anointed to be the next king. But his brother burns with anger and says, "Why have you come down here?" And his biggest concern is, "And who did you leave the sheep with?" Again, saying to David, "You're a shepherd. That's who you are. That's what you are." Right? His brother doesn't say, "Hey, you're to be the next king. I guess you've come here to help us fight or give us some strategy or to..." No, who's watching the sheep? Talk about like a gut punch, eh? Wouldn't you, how would you be feeling? I know how I'd be feeling. I'd be like, how come nobody gets it? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. Well, that's not what God said about David, is it? So David was a man after his own heart. This is what happens in upheaval. Takes time to get there sometimes. People don't realize it. People come against us. The enemy comes against us. People say things that aren't true. We maybe believe things that aren't true. How wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle. Now, what have I done? Said David. Can't I even speak? He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter, and the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, and Saul sent for him. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." Nobody wants to step up, but David's saying, "I'm ready to step up here. I'll go fight him." Saul replied, and Saul didn't know that he was anointed as the next king, right? But Saul replied, "You're not able to go out against the Philistine and fight him. You're only a young man, and he's been a warrior since his youth." Saul doubts what God can do through David. Saul doesn't know that David has been anointed, but Saul is doubting that God can do anything through David or maybe do anything at all at this point. But David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion and a bear carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it and I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair and I struck it and I killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. I've never fought a lion or a bear. Someone says I should. I think I won't. Unless I go on a hike with Greg on the Manitorio Trail. If you remember from months ago, he talked about that. But I want to just pause there for a moment, because we don't know this for sure, but I know myself. And I have to just wonder, but when David encountered his first lion and his first bear, I wonder what that was like. Yeah, maybe he grew up, as someone else was being a shepherd, and he watched them fight a lion or fight a bear and kill it. But it's one thing to see someone do something, and then it's another thing for you to be the one that then has to go and do it. Whatever, I don't know. Like for me, that'd be like, and some of you would be, Mike, maybe your family would be, oh, that's awesome, I wouldn't even wait at all. But like jumping off a high cliff to jump into the lake. I'd be like, yeah, you go first. You go first. And I'd be the last one standing there and going, I don't know. Mike's family would just probably all run and jump off. They seem like adventure that way. But David, when he first saw his first lion or his first bear, we don't know this, but I could imagine, maybe he was like, oh, Lord, please take this lion away from me. God, would you get rid of this bear? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. But that would be some of our instinct. It would be to ask the Lord to remove it. But maybe much in the same way that at times we ask God to remove our situations from us. God, would you take this from me? Would you remove me from this? Would you make this situation different? But God didn't take the lion nor the bear away from David. We actually know that because David just said that he killed them. So God didn't take the lion or the bear away from David. Sometimes you might think that the best thing that the Lord could do for us is to take the situation away from us. But as I said a couple of times, sometimes he works in reverse and allows the situation to remain so that when a future event comes, we know how to handle it. It's not most comfortable. Well, that's what David is saying here. I know what to do with this. We'll jump back into verse 34. But David said to Saul, your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear came and carried off the sheep from the flock, I went after it. I struck it and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, so not only did he grab a sheep and then he hit it and he got the sheep back, now the animal's coming to attack David. When it turned on me, I seized it by its hair, struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them because he's defied the armies of God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine. Saul said to David, go and the Lord be with you. I don't know if that was really a blessing or just like have at her. I don't know if Saul was like super confident at that point in time, like, all right, yeah. Or if he was like, well, this is all I got. Give it a whirl. Let her rip. I don't know. Go and the Lord be with you. I read it one way. I don't know how it was actually said. Then Saul dressed David in his own tunic and put a coat of armor over him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened the sword over his tunic and tried walking around. If you've seen the movie David, it's a hilarious scene because the armor's way too big and he's like lost in it. And you guys saw it. But he tried walking around because he was not used to them. Right? He wasn't used to the armor. He was a shepherd. He wouldn't be putting on armor. I cannot go out in these, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. So he took them off. I'm not used to them. He wasn't used to them because everyone kept sending him back to the sheep. Right? The anointed next to be king probably should have been used to them. But he says, I'm not used to them. Because God never took him out of his situation that he was in. He left him in the situation for a coming event. And he says, I'm not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in a pouch of his shepherd's bag with his sling in his hand, and approached the Philistine. Meanwhile, the Philistine was with his shield bearer in front of him. And he kept coming closer to David. He looked at David over a little more than a boy, glowing with health and handsome, and he despised him. He said to David, "Am I a dog? Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" Right? 9'9". Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. "Come here," he said, "and I'll give your flesh to the birds and the wild animals." All right? 9'9". Someone tells you who they are, believe them. Okay. Well, David said this to the Philistine. "You come against me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. This very day I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." As the Philistines moved closer to attack him, David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it at the Philistine. He struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into the forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and he killed him. David ran over and stood over him. He took the Philistine's sword and drew it from its sheath, and after he killed him, he cut off his head with the sword. That part wasn't in the movie, so if you want to take your kids to the movie, it's probably okay. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they turned and they ran. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged towards with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Their dead were strewn along the road to Gath and Ekron. When the Israelites returned from chasing the Philistines, they plundered their camp. David took the Philistine's head and brought it to Jerusalem, and he put it on the Philistine's weapon in his own tent. As Saul watched David going out to meet the Philistine, he said to Abner, commander of the army, "Abner, whose son is this young man?" Abner replied, "Surely, as you live, your majesty, I don't know." Still somehow overlooked. "Who is this young man?" "I don't know. He was an armor bearer, for crying out loud. He was playing the lyre for him." "Who is this young man?" "Well, he was the young man that when you were tormented by a demon, he came and played music and you felt better. Don't you remember that?" "No, he didn't." David so overlooked. "Who is this young man?" "I don't know." It's wild. David said, "I am the son of your servant Jesse of Bethlehem." Now, this was not it for David. He didn't automatically become king. In fact, Saul tried to kill him and on multiple occasions because Saul wanted to be king. Right? Saul kind of got wind of what's going on, and he pursued David and tried to kill him. David also had the opportunity to kill Saul on 2 occasions, and we won't read those, but it's in 1 Samuel 24 and 1 Samuel 27. And we'll read just a snippet here from 1 Samuel 27, verse 9. But David said, "Don't destroy him." Right? They have an opportunity to kill Saul, and David said, "Don't destroy him. Who can lay a hand on the Lord's anointed and be guiltless?" David's waiting to be king, overlooked so many times, and he has a chance now to make things happen in his own hands. And he says, "Don't kill him. Who can kill the Lord's anointed and be guiltless? As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "the Lord will strike him, or his time will come and he'll die. or he'll go into battle and perish. But the Lord forbid that I should lay a hand on the Lord's anointed. Now get the spear and water jug that are near his head, and let's go. Didn't take things into his own hands. In a world of upheaval, and that's the challenge in those situations, isn't it, for us, to discern. I don't have the answer for you because it's a discerning, but the discerning of what is my part and what's God's part. I'm in the middle of this upheaval. I'm waiting for things to happen that God promised would happen. Do I just sit back and wait for the Lord to do something? Do I run forward and do it all myself? What's your part and what's God's part? That's the discerning part. Now, eventually what happens is that Saul does take his own life. David actually mourns for Saul's death. David is anointed as king, and there's a war between his house and the house of Saul. There's battles, there's negotiations, and finally David becomes king over Israel. 2 Samuel 5. All the tribes of Israel came to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, while Saul was king over us, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns. And the Lord said to you, 'You will shepherd my people Israel.'" Right? I said, they're back with the sheep again. But he was learning something. Right? Even though, as I said, in upheaval, it's not something you would have chose, probably something not that you would have wanted. It doesn't seem like you're moving any closer to the promise, but they kept sending him back to the sheep. And the Lord says that you'll shepherd my people. You'll take care of them. He had quite a bit of experience doing that with real sheep. You'll shepherd my people Israel, and you'll become their ruler. When all the elders of Israel had come to King David at Hebron, the king made a covenant with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he became the king, and he reigned for 40 years. In Hebron, he reigned over Judah 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem, he reigned over all of Israel and Judah for 33 years. So the question as I was looking at this was, how long was it from the time that David was anointed to be the king to when he actually was the king? And the best timeline that I could find was 20 years. That it was 20 years from when Jesse pulled out all of his sons and pulled David in from the fields with the sheep to what I just read when he actually became king. 20 years. David first ruled only over the tribe of Judah for 7.5 years before finally being recognized as king over the whole area. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that, if you're waiting for God's promise in your life and you haven't reached 20 years, you haven't waited long enough. That's not what I'm saying. That would be about as encouraging as, I was at a graduation once, and that would be about as encouraging as hearing this. The keynote speaker said this, and I'm like, that is so stupid. I guess, I don't know. He says to the graduates, "I hope you guys fail in life, because that's how you really learn." I'm like, that's encouraging. They would have never got to this stage if they all failed. So I'm not saying you got to wait 20 years, because that wouldn't be very encouraging, or I don't actually think even very true. Rather, what I'm saying is that the God who fulfilled the promises in David's life is the same God today. You can be certain and have confidence that God will fulfill his word. However difficult that might be to believe, a virgin gave birth to the Christ, an old man became a father of many nations, and an overlooked shepherd became a king. You can be sure that the Lord will remain true to his word. Or maybe, and I'll put it in a little bit of lyrics and I won't sing it, or maybe it's like these lyrics, because I like songs speak to me, but maybe it's like these lyrics from local recording artist Jordan Jansen with The Color, and he puts it this way: "Your ways, there's a reason for all your ways. The cross has proven you can take pain and make something you can use. Your plan, I don't understand all of your plans, But every time I reach a dead end, still somehow you lead me through. Maybe that mountain saved my heart from a valley. Maybe that desert taught me to pray for rain. Maybe that water never parted for a reason, and you're leading me a better way. You see a million details only you see. I see a fraction of the grand scheme, but you have heaven's point of view. If you lead me through the fire, there's a reason for the flames. I will trust, I will believe that there's a better way. If you lead me into battle, then the fight is not in vain. I will trust and I will believe that there's a better way. At the beginning, I mentioned the song also, Sometimes He Works in Reverse. That was another song that I heard this week as I was thinking about the message and putting it together. And you can listen to it if you want. But some of those lyrics are, above all the chaos, there's order. After the fire, He restores. At the end of the pain, His promise remains. He works in mysterious ways. So blessed are the poor and the powerless, all the weak and wounded made whole again. Even what the enemy has tried to use against me, God will use it for my good and for His glory. Sometimes He works in reverse. When we surrender, that's when He takes over. He works in mysterious ways. So wherever you find yourself in life, maybe you're not experiencing upheaval right now. Maybe life is actually really good. But when you do, come back next Sunday because Larry's going to knock it down. No. When you do, we can think back to the life of Jesus, right? There's the theme that Larry's on is drawing near through the life of, through the life of David. We can think about drawing near through the life of David. And kind of every delayed promise that he had and what he must have been experiencing and how God came through for him in the same way that the Lord will come through for us because it is the same Lord. So as you go this week, bless you and may the Lord's favor be on you. And may you experience the Lord this week in the way that you need and the way that speaks personally to you. Because as much as the Lord is the Lord of everything, He's also a very personal and close God to each one of us. So bless you as you go this week.